I know you don't want to hear this, but if you are walking in purpose, if you are living out your purpose, you are always going to be under spiritual attack. There's going to always be some type of spiritual opposition that's trying to take you out. It doesn't stop. But I don't want to discourage you. I actually want to encourage you. And I want to talk about why the constant attacks never stop. And I want to talk about how the constant attacks are able to happen. And then I want to talk about ways to combat these attacks so that they do not manifest and become a reality. So when we think about a threat, threat means that it is something that could potentially happen that could stop the plan or agenda of something else. So for example, if you are in medical care and you are a threat of getting cancer, then your doctor is going to put you under preventative action to stop you from getting cancer. So you may be prescribed certain medication, you may be told to change your diet, your lifestyle, so that it prevents the threat from manifesting into reality. So, spiritually speaking, whatever God's will is, it always goes against the agenda of the devil or the enemy. That's just how it works spiritually. So, if you are walking in purpose, that means that you are working within the will of God, which means that the will of God goes against the agenda of the devil. Therefore, if you are walking in purpose, then you are a threat to the devil's plan. Point blank, period. And so because when we think about a threat and we understand what a threat is, then we understand that the response to a threat is preventative action to prevent the threat from happening. Therefore, constant attacks. This is why spiritual attacks are always going to be a problem for those who are walking in purpose, because you walking in purpose is a threat to the devil's plan. Therefore, he has to constantly have preventative actions in place to stop you from manifesting into to stop you as a threat from manifesting into the reality of what you are going to do. Okay, and so how this looks in real life is that, and Sarah Jakes Roberts did a really good job explaining this in one of her books. So how this works is usually when we are children, something happens negatively that has a negative impact on us. And when that happens, it creates a seed that grows and grows, and it creates what we call trauma. So for example, you can have insecurity issues, you can have abandonment issues, you could have low self-esteem, you can not love yourself, you can have low self-worth. It looks different for everybody. Okay. So that's when the healing journey comes into play. That's when we go to therapy. That's when we submit our lives to God. That's when we start to journal. That's when we start to love ourselves. That's when we start to change our habits. That's when we start to do the things that we need to do so that we're able to walk in purpose and be aligned with God's will. Okay? Following me? So, even though we have gone to therapy, we have done the work, we are able to expand from that trauma, become bigger than that pain, and kind of step back into our power, call our power back, so to speak. It doesn't mean that those problems go away permanently. It doesn't. And those seeds, those problems, those traumas can often be used as entry points to get into your spirit. Let me explain. So, spiritual warfare happens when there's an entry point to your spirit, and usually we kind of invite these entry points, unfortunately, or invite these entry points. We invite these entities through these entry points is what I'm trying to say. So it can be physical. You can have sex with a person. It can be physical again, where you are in fellowship with the person. You have a person in your space. You may have a person in your home. You may have a conversation with the person. You may have shared some things with this person that you weren't supposed to share. Now this person has an invitation to be in your spirit, to be in your plans. It looks different for everyone. But all in all, there is something happens where there's an entry point. And because of that, now this spirit or this entity is able to come into your spirit. And that is where those spiritual attacks happen. So one way to know when you're under attack is your emotions. So if your emotions do not align with the healed version of you, so if you're angry, if you're bitter, if you're jealous, if you become insecure, things that you have worked to overcome, things that you have healed from, if those emotions return, you're under attack. Even though you have done the work, even though you have healed from it, it is still an entry point for the enemy to get into your spirit. It doesn't stop. So, personally for me, I had contact with the person that I was not supposed to have contact with, and I knew I wasn't supposed to have contact with. And the moment that the contact was over, the aftermath of that was drama, chaos, anger, confusion, bitterness, jealousy, frustration, all of the above, okay? So, of course, this is why prayer is important, and this is why prayer matters. But I want to talk a lot more the practical work, because prayer without work is void. We have to put in the work. We have to put in the effort. We have to have the attention behind these things. We just can't pray ourselves in and out of stuff all the time. So, some biblical texts to kind of back up what I'm saying. Nehemiah, chapter 4, verse 8. They all made plans to come and fight against Jerusalem and throw us into confusion. But we, verse 9, but we prayed to our God and guarded the city day and night to protect ourselves. And that is really what I want to focus on. Verse 9, where it says, but we prayed to our God and guarded the city day and night to protect ourselves. Follow me here, I'm going somewhere. For one, understanding when the attack is an attack is key. So for me personally, I was able to understand that I was under attack because I recognized that the emotions I were feeling were emotions that I had worked to heal from. The insecurity, the anger, the bitterness, the jealousy, the rage. Those were emotions that were connected to the old version, the unhealed version of me that had resurfaced because I had allowed someone in my energy, in my spirit, that I knew I wasn't supposed to. Again, it goes back to the entry points. However, we cannot live a life where we aren't connecting with people, or we're not in a bubble. We're going to be dealt with people. We're going to face people. There's always going to be some type of strategic plan in place to have an entryway into your spirit so that the attacks don't stop. So staying in Nehemiah chapter 4, verse 15 reads, when our enemies heard that we knew of their plans and that God had frustrated them, we all returned to our work on the wall. So it is very important that you create a strategic, practical, realistic plan so that you can address these attacks. One is it is important to understand when you are under attack. And the clear indicator of that is to recognize your emotions. If you have healed from insecurities and all of a sudden you feel insecure again, that is the devil in your spirit. Okay, so then you have to recognize that when you're under attack, recognize how you were able to have an entry point to this attack. Who were you last talking to? Who were you last around? Who did you have in your home? You following me here? You have to recognize these attacks and recognize how they were able to manifest. Then you create a plan to combat them and a plan to prevent them. Okay, so for me personally, my plan is very strategic. I'm now very mindful, very protective over my space. I was before, but now I recognize that these attacks are going to happen. At first I thought it was through friendship, but now I recognize that it's going to happen with anybody that can come in my contact, in my space, right? So I am very strategic with who I let in my house, if I let people in my house. I am strategic with who I allow near my child. I am strategic with who I talk to and share things with. I am always in constant communication with God, always praying and asking, is this person for me? Is this person okay? Is this person safe for my spirit? I'm recognizing and being hyper vigilant and hyper aware of my emotions when I'm around this person, or my emotions once this person leaves my space, so that I'm able to recognize when someone is coming to be an entry point to get into my spirit and to again attack me. So I wanted to come up here really quick and to just show that these attacks never stop. They're always going to happen. As long as you are a threat, you're going to always be under attack. And I know that that's frustrating because sometimes, I know for me, I was starting to feel like if this opposition is always happening, then obviously God's not with me. Obviously I'm doing something wrong. Obviously I'm being punished. But again, that's not true. It's understanding just how powerful I am spiritually, and to know that because I'm such a threat, these things are going to always try to find a way to touch me. But now that I'm able to understand why, how, and to make a plan so they don't manifest, now I'm able to attack back, basically. I'm able to fight back, clap back, I guess. But I wanted to come up here, share that. I hope this helps someone, and I'll see you in the next video.